Well, this is Monday Conversations with Dr. Melvin and Dr. Rock. Lessons learned make room for new lessons.
What's up, y'all?
Oh, babe, I wanted to talk today about lessons learned. You know, I was a project manager for almost 20 years. And one of the things that after each project, even during the life cycle of the project, we had to document lessons learned. And basically, lessons learned are document insights, gained from the success or the challenges or even the failures, of a project is what we experienced on a project. So oftentimes our program manager would tell us, whatever you experience, be it good or be it bad, write it down, catalog it throughout the life cycle of the project. And although we will catalog it, for it to be at the end of the projects for us to document it and put it in our lessons learned folder, he or she would often say, write it down, because when you get at the end of this project, you may not remember what challenges you faced, what failures you faced, what successes you faced. And oftentimes, when we don't do that, our lessons learned project documentation at the end is difficult. But lessons learned, is for when other projects come up after we have finished that project. And if we get stuck on a project that looks similar to a project that has already been worked out, finished, we can look at those lessons learned to help us with learning the lessons for the new project. Right. And I just wanted us to talk about lessons learned versus learning lessons, because oftentimes it's hard for us to learn a lesson because it's hard for us to learn current lessons because we haven't learned last year's lessons or learned lessons from the past.
Right.
Lessons learned versus learning lessons. You know what I mean?
Right. So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's more like those lessons learned is more like you were journaling or writing.
Yeah.
So it's something for you to draw back on as you go through
life.
Right. Right. So basically, it's something for you, like you said, when you come up upon something similar later on, you can draw back on and be like, this is what I did
back then.
So I can look at that to be like, you know what, let me use this now
to help me
make it through where I'm going through
at this present time. Exactly. But if we don't learn the lesson, like several program managers would tell project managers, write down the lessons learned, write down the challenges you experience. But if we don't learn those lessons, in the said season, when the new season comes, it's hard to learn the lesson because we didn't learn the lesson.
Right. It sounds like it's pretty similar to like game plans. Like, with playing football, we had game plans for each team.
Come on.
So when you have game plans, you have specific plans for each team, right? So what you do is you practice, and you run certain plays, and you run those plays over and over again,
to learn the lessons.
Exactly, and it goes back to what you normally say: practice makes permanent.
Exactly,
right. So those plays you run and run until they become embedded in you. Right. So when game time comes, it's like almost second nature for you.
Exactly. So you don't have to learn the lesson all over again.
Exactly. So every time you play that team, it's like second nature for you to run that play, against those certain schemes that team may run. So you know what to you know how to run that play against those schemes, so you don't have to practice it because you know it.
Exactly. No different from keeping it along those lines. You got to stay hydrated, because I remember a time when we had just got Ray and brought Ray to the game, big old boxer dog, and you guys, one church was playing against another church. And I used to always get on you, hydrate, babe. You got to hydrate, babe. And you're a football player. You played for high school and college, right?
Yeah.
So you know the process of God having to get your body together, right? And you got up on that field in your 40s
Oh my God.
and didn't hydrate.
Oh, I was hydrated. It was just 120 degrees on that field. Oh my! And that hydration just evaporated quickly.
Yeah, you
yeah.
wind up in the hospital because you were
Yeah.
dehydrated, right?
Gosh.
But it taught you a lesson, to make sure that you get those electrolytes. You make sure there's no such thing as overhydrate, but
No.
but during the process of the game, take a break to go hydrate yourself again because the body depletes. So if you didn't learn that lesson, you'll get back out on the field
Right.
next season. When it's time for the churches to play again next season, and if you don't learn that lesson, you'll wind up in the ER again.
Yeah, because 40-something is not 20-something.
Hello.
Yeah, so that lessons learned.
Right. So we have to be cognizant
Yes.
and conscious of the lessons learned, so that when it's time to learn lessons, we don't falter. We don't make repeated mistakes
Right.
because of lessons learned. We gotta stand long enough to help us endure. But if we don't endure, then we're just repeating past mistakes.
Right.
No different from, I truly believe, the Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And oftentimes when we see brothers and sisters going through something that we have overcome, they rather just endure their own experience than listening to what you went through.
Right. And you and I understand what you're saying with that, and sometimes people often say, experience is the best teacher, right? Mm-hmm. But everybody's experience is different. Mm-hmm. So that's probably why, some people, they have to experience their own thing. They don't look at it from, okay, well, yeah, that's your experience, but that may not be my experience. Mm-hmm. So they feel that they have to go through it on their own instead of them, okay, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, that may work for you, but that may not work for me. So I got to do my own thing. Yeah,
and you hear that so much, and then and then they take the long route. Because I hear what you're saying. Experience is the best teacher. Yeah, but what experience is your best teacher? Should you be learning from or overcoming from my testimony, or do you really need to get burned to realize, okay,
the fire is hot?
Exactly. It's just like you. It's just like you tell me all the time, babe, turn the heat down. You're the cook. I'm the baker, right? And you tell me all the time, turn the heat down. But it wasn't until I burned those green beans, that I realized, okay, I should have listened to what babe say. He is the cooker, so I don't have to. I do realize that I want the water to get to a boil. But once it gets to a boil, turn it down. Don't keep the heat high, And so I look at that as, I need to learn from my own experience. But did I have to learn from my own experience? What keeps me from not learning through your experience?
Well, as the Bible says, pride comes before the fall.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, they have that pride or that stubbornness.
Yeah, pride, yeah.
People, they may not recognize it as pride or stubbornness.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just they call themselves just being inquisitive.
Yeah.
And not looking at it from that perspective. But at the same time, you have to realize that you need to pull back sometimes.
Yeah, because you're the experienced cook, right? So why didn't I turn it down, right? What was my thought process in not turning it down? My thought process was this: it's gonna be all right. I heard what he said, but it's gonna be all right. And then what happened? The green beans burned. And here I go, well, we can just eat the top green beans. But they had that burn taste.
Yeah.
Right? So me not being the cook, me just being the baker, I'm wanting to make something, but not listening. And because I chose not to listen to the one who was more experienced in cooking, I wanted to learn from my own experience. So I'm a novice in this and you're the pro in this. And so let me just learn my novice self. But then look what happened. So I took the longer route. So the longer route instead of overcoming by your testimony, learning through your experience. I gotta get burned. I gotta touch the stove. I got to see if it was hot. You're telling me, babe, it's hot. Turn it down.
Yeah.
So I think what you said, stubbornness, I'm 21 plus. I don't have to turn it down. I can see for myself. But then look what happened. So it's okay to learn from other people's experiences.
Yeah.
It's okay to live vicariously through somebody else, but we got to do it ourselves.
What they used to say when we were growing up, they say a hard head makes a sore behind.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different as you get older. It's not so much you makes a sore behind. It just means that lesson you learn, it's a little bit more taxing.
Yeah, exactly. But then you want somebody to learn from your lesson.
Yeah. And then you get an attitude
when they don't listen. But have you learned through somebody else's lesson?
Man,
So I truly believe that we will get through life quicker. Or maybe quicker is not a good word, but we'll get through life more balanced and less stressful if we just pay attention to our environment and our surroundings and overcome, through others, see how they overcame and not necessarily have to go through the burning part, for us and just live vicariously through somebody else. I truly believe that we'll get further along the road.
Yeah.
If we don't have so many repeated mistakes. Now, does repeated mistakes help? Yeah. But do we have to repeat mistakes to learn? No.
And sometimes we don't have to. Wait, let's quantify that though.
Mm-hmm.
How many repeated mistakes?
Oh my God! Now I can see one or two maybe. But when every time we turn around, you still doing this?
Right.
You haven't matured. You don't want to mature. You want to be rebellious.
Right. That's why I said we need to quantify.
Yeah.
How many mistakes are acceptable.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to keep burning beans. That becomes costly.
Exactly. And then that burns the bottom of the pan and then the pot. And our pots are not cheap.
Right.
And so we want
to scrub pots.
Exactly. And a dishwasher can't always get it out.
Right. So.
Then we got to buy a new pot because the bottom of the pot is scarred.
Man, please.
So how many times is quantifiable? Am I saying that right? To learn the lesson or to make the repeated mistakes. I say once the most twice. But when you going 3 and 4 times and you babe, you still burning beans? You didn't realize that you burnt the beans the last time that it was on high? Yeah, but I wanted to see if I can catch it again. Okay. Well, did you catch it again the second time? No. Well, I just want to see what is it that you want to see? What is it that you can't learn? What is it that keeps you in rebellion?
What's your technique?
Yeah. Yeah. Why can't you adapt and adjust? What is in your heart that keeps you from adapting and adjusting, that you want to continue to make the same repeated mistake over and over and over? What in you needs to die?
Right.
For you to see this is a distraction in life that keeps you from growth.
Right. And I think a lot of it has to do with people just don't want to be, humble.
Yeah.
Humility.
Yeah.
And that's what's I think is a key component. The Bible talks about that God gives grace to the humble.
Yeah.
And He exalts the humble.
Yeah.
But people, they want to exalt themselves.
Yeah.
They want to say, look what I did. Look what I did. No,
Yeah.
It's better for somebody else to pat you on the back.
Yeah.
Let somebody else say, hey, you did a good job.
Yeah.
you know, instead of you trying to do it yourself, you know. Just let somebody else give you the kudos.
Exactly. So what is today's lesson? Lessons learned are needed for future lessons.
And be teachable.
Yeah, that's the part. That's why I said, what is it that needs to die in you to keep you from growth? Be teachable.
Exactly.
Learn the lesson of being teachable so that you can learn future lessons in the future. Lessons learned from an old project is for new lessons to learn in a new project, such as life. Lessons learned to learn the lesson. Well,
Dr. Melvin here.
and this is Dr. Rock. We're signing off. Monday mic drop. Learn the lesson so that you can retain the lesson.
And just be teachable.
In Jesus' name. God bless you.